A lot of stuff that Mace and Usher know that they ain't telling about Diddy.
There are a lot of things that Mace or us should know that they aren't telling about Diddy. Can you really imagine what you mean when you say that Usher was once with Diddy? It was interesting to see what you saw, but you were only 13 at the time, so I'm not sure if I could indulge and comprehend what I was even looking at. It was beautiful, but do I regret it because he wants to be called Cinco? I know that he probably has some something with it, but I'm like, hey, you know what? Man, do what you want. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to puffy camp? According to a manum Usher, he's saying I recently relocated to New York City and spent a year living with Shan Puffy Combs. Girl, let me tell you, the tea is hot and the streets are bustling. Usher, the smooth actor and self-proclaimed king, has finally spoken out about the Diddy drama and chill. This is going to get messy. You know how Usher has been playing it low-key, but this time he's spilling the tea. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. Why is this such a big deal? Because Usher isn't just some random celebrity, honey. He's been in the business for decades and knows where all the bodies are buried. This isn't just gossip. We're talking about possibly upending the entire entertainment industry. You may think you know what's going on behind the scenes, but you haven't seen anything yet. So what does Usher have to say about Diddy? The streets are saying this is going to be explosive. Are you ready for this? Because I doubt you are watching this live. Lon claims that Diddy personally informed him that he had a sexual relationship with Usher. According to the lawsuit, even though Usher's name has been redacted, you can still identify him because he is described as the performer from the Super Bowl. We all know who that is, but how do you feel about that man? Well, I mentioned that earlier that he said about Stevie J the Usher part, that's a touchy situation, man, you know what I'm saying, because I had a certain feeling and I felt this certain way when Usher got on Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people platforms, but he got on Sha and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him, and everything, you know what I'm saying about the business, right? I know. And people know that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you gonna give him a pass, bro? You know I know. Let me refrain you on something. Remember, Usher, we was at this Swiss hotel. Puff was had Kim in the room, had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the inn, in the other big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his road. He came outside in this row. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up with somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right. When you was at Diddy camp, you all put it together. And what you mean by Diddy count? Remember he was on one of the talk shows, the white guy with the curly hair. What's his name? The white guy with the curly hair. And he said, yo, would you send your son to Diddy camp? And User said, no, no. Ask him why he won't send him to Diddy camp. But yet and still you praise him. Damn man, you said that. I know you can't go into detail. But you said that it was a situation where D sent him to the hospital. Let us explain that to you. Let us your mom explain that to you. And the hospital was in Scarsdale, New York. All right, let's go back a little bit because this Usher and Diddy situation isn't new. In fact, it dates back a long, long time. We're talking about a connection that predates some of the people watching this video. You might be wondering, what's the big deal? Well, it goes much deeper than you might think. So imagine this. It's the 90s and little Usher Raymond is just a young kid with big dreams. And Diddy himself enters the music industry like a fairy godfather. Back then, people were talking about how Diddy sensed something special in the young child. And honey, he wasn't wrong. Usher was learning from one of the biggest names in the industry by being taught the ropes by Diddy, who took him under his wing and showed him the ropes of the business. We're talking about studio sessions, dance rehearsals, the whole 9 yards. But it wasn't all smooth sailing, because Diddy can be a demanding perfectionist who is always pushing for more. Some of you may be wondering if Diddy actually signed Usher, but that's not how things turned out. Don't get it twisted, Diddy's fingerprints were all over Usher's early career. He was like that cool uncle who shows up at family gatherings with advice and connections. Over the years, these two kept crossing paths. Remember that Fire collab, I Need a Girl Part 1, that was Usher lending his smooth vocals to Diddy's, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. They've shared stages, parted together, and been in each other's circles for decades. A lot of people believe that Usher was groomed by Diddy. He wasn't only groomed by Diddy, he was groomed by La Reid, the rest of them too, man, because they knew what happened and they came out and brought them back, and all of a sudden he's getting all the great tracks, he's getting all the songs, they making him into the star. Even though he may have been abused, they seem to be pretty good friends. Well, they probably is, they did a lot of work together. Man, throughout their whole career, Puff was early in his career. Puff and Usher were working together when Usher was just a kid, all the way up. I think there's videos from not too long ago when they were together. And Puff is making jokes about how they used to wrestle for the frosted flakes in the morning. And yeah, I bet they did. Somebody frosted somebody flakes without the milk. What do you believe is preventing Usher from making a move or saying anything? You have to understand that a lot of people in that field are silent and say it's a way of passage for some people in the entertainment industry. And with all these people coming out against Diddy, do you think more will follow? A lot of people realize that while everyone thinks that everyone is coming out now, there are a lot of people who wanted to bring stuff out for a long time, but the lawyers wouldn't take it or deal with it. Well, that's what happened to me. Those who don't go down like that don't be as great as the Ushers as the Diddys. I've seen that you've actually spoken to some victims behind the scenes. Yes, without naming names. What all can you tell me about that? Well, I don't want to talk about what they confided in me, but there's a lot of stuff that's been going on, and there are tapes that are running around with women. They want to get a hold of those tapes so they could bring them, to the lawyers. Cassie opened a floodgate for lawyers to look at people's cases and say, yeah, we might get some money out of that, we might can do that. At first, nobody seemed to care, but now that they realize that a lot of this stuff may have some truth to it, and the people can be paid for it. Little Rod claims to have a ton of video footage, and that shows him being followed by a cameraman while engaging in all kinds of illegal activities. Were there a lot of cameras around back then? No, they didn't even permit people to take pictures, Harley. We didn't have those kinds of cameras. There were a few cameramen, Alex and this Spanish guy, who were permitted to take specific pictures, but only after you told them to. I have a tape of the party that Diddy threw after Shine was found guilty. That's interesting. Did he throw a party to celebrate winning his case? I take that as okay. Is there anything on it, or is this just